Hi, everyone. Welcome to FieldSnips. Thanks for joining us. Our mission at FieldSnips is to explore careers and inspire futures one encounter at a time. And today's encounter is with the lovely Khetanya. She is a fitness professional whose specialty is Pilates. So we are going to learn a lot today from her. And I'm really excited for folks to just learn something new. So, Khetanya, what does a fitness professional do, and specifically, what does a fitness professional in Pilates do?
Yeah, okay. So, fitness professional is someone who teaches individuals how to get strong, how to be mindful, how to move their bodies in a way that feels good for their body. And specifically for Pilates, so many things to talk about with Pilates, but Pilates is a method that was developed by Joseph Pilates. And the method itself is based around strengthening your core so that you can have a stronger spine, posture, right? And then integrating, right, as we're moving our bodies, right? And your core work is then integrated throughout the rest of your body. And so we don't think about it in being younger, that when we stand up or sit down or lay down or roll, that our core is very much involved in that type of movement. And so I help individuals find more strength in their core so that they can do more things with their bodies.
And how did you even get exposed to Pilates? What was your introduction into that space?
Yeah. So I moved to New York back in 2002.
Okay.
And I was studying to be a dancer professionally with Alvin Ailey.
Okay, amazing.
And while I was there, we got exposed to all different types of dance, but we also got exposed to Pilates mat, which Pilates has a lot of different apparatuses or pieces of equipment that you would use, right? So there's mat work. You also have a reformer. You also have a Cadillac, which is a very large piece of equipment. You have chair. You have the tower, and then some of these other smaller pieces of equipment. And so I found this woman in New York. Her name is Antorin. And at the time, there weren't group classes. They were just kind of like individual private sessions.
Okay.
And she started a group class. And those classes were $28. They were still expensive back then.
Okay.
They were still expensive. I remember they were $28. And I knew as a dancer that yoga would keep me flexible and keep my mind very focused and balanced. But Pilates would make me stronger because I was dancing. You know, we had classes, probably about 3 classes a day, which is about an hour and a half long. Then we'd have rehearsals.
Oh.
So I knew that my body would not be able to do another class. And so I thought, oh, what if I do Pilates that will help me? Little did I know that was going to turn into something bigger later on.
Wow.
But what I did is, because I could not afford to take classes on a weekly basis, I cleaned the equipment, the reformers, in exchange for taking class. And so Anne was so sweet.
A good deal.
Yeah, it was a great deal.
Yeah.
Because every hour I worked, I got an hour of class. And so that really helped my my pre-professional career in getting stronger. And so Pilates came into my life by just wanting to be stronger as a dancer.
I like the fact that you worked in exchange for this new skill that you were learning. If you have a skill that you can utilize, or you know someone that is in a position you want to be in, using your skills to help them in exchange for some mentorship or even money at the end of the day is a really good advice. One thing I'm curious to know about is, you mentioned you were in dance before and you wanted to get stronger. So what is the difference in doing Pilates versus doing weightlifting? Like, if I want to get stronger as a kid, I'll just go to the gym and I'll lift some weights. Why would I consider doing Pilates instead?
Yeah. So muscles that we don't think about. So go back to what I was talking about, standing up, sitting down, laying down. If you were to slow that down, like very super, super slow, the muscles that you're using are stabilizing muscles. These are very tiny, tiny muscles in your body. Pilates will sneak up on you.
Okay.
Because you're laying on a mat and you're doing these exercises, or you're on a reformer, you're doing these exercises, and they don't look like a lot of work is happening, but it's such small, controlled, precise exercises and movements to the body that you will shake. We still find lifting weights very like complementary to Pilates. LeBron does Pilates.
Shout out to LeBron.
Shout out to LeBron. And LeBron has, I mean, he says that a lot of his career, like him staying as strong as he is because of Pilates. A lot of the football players from the Chiefs, they also do Pilates. Kobe, when he was alive, he did Pilates. So Pilates is around.
Yeah, so if you're trying to be a student athlete, or you are a student athlete, or you're interested in dance like you mentioned, or any other sport where you have to be very physical, it sounds like Pilates is a good foundation to have and to learn about. What made you get into teaching Pilates?
Okay, so coming back to my dance career, I was also an actor. And what I love the exchange of seeing people transform from what I'm giving them. And so for me, I feel like as a child, I've always enjoyed sharing.
Wow, that's a skill that, kids have to learn.
Listen.
It can be very difficult.
I also came from a very large family, and I think part of that was forced on me. Oldest daughter of 5 kids. So I had to share. But there's something very rewarding watching people not believe in themselves and then giving them a task or a skill to try, coaching them, walking them, giving them direction of how to do it and how to execute it. And then they realize, oh, I can do this. So for me, I would say technically how I got into teaching, I auditioned. Right? I interviewed like you would do any job. And then I trained in the method. And that took some time to learn and perfect and practice. Teaching Pilates isn't like you don't just go to school and then afterwards you start teaching and then you're like the master teacher. It is something that I feel like has been a journey for me since early 2000s. And over time, working with different bodies, different perspectives, that I've been able to perfect my skill even more. But I've just always loved teaching because it's an opportunity for me to share with someone.
Yeah, I love that. When you talked about briefly the education or the classes and the training you took, what was that educational background? Did you have to have a degree to become a Pilates instructor?
So Alvin Ailey, the school in New York, they have several different routes that you can take. You can do the BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts program. That's in conjunction with Fordham University. You can do their certificate program, which is like a year long or 3 years, depending on how long you want to be there. Or you can basically do their scholarship program, which is called a fellowship program. And that's the program that I did. So I arrived in New York, no money. I just had skills and I auditioned and they took me in. And I was at Ailey for the Ailey School for 2.5 years. And so when I first learned about Pilates, I was taking it as a student. Then around 2014, after my dance career, I kind of moved around a lot. I was living at one point in Vegas. I was working for Cirque du Soleil. I was also doing Pilates there because
that's real cool.
They brought Pilates there to help us all stay strong. The dancers, the acrobats, the clowns. Everyone had access to Pilates.
No, just kidding. Cirque du Soleil doesn't have the animals.
But that would be cool, right? And so when I got back to New York, I was, trying to get more jobs, more work as an actor at this point. And I thought, if I taught, I can make more money per hour. And so I saw a studio that was having auditions and I went in and they gave us combinations to learn. And then they told us to learn those and then teach it back to us. And that's really how I got into teaching. I auditioned. So I went through an interview process. So short answer, you don't need a degree, but it is highly advised that you get certified. You can certify through one specific apparatus, so one piece of equipment, or you can get certified across the board, and that's called comprehensive certified. And so my comprehensive certification took me about almost 2 years. But this program is like the Yale and Harvard of Pilates.
Okay.
You don't all have to do that. But it's great because it gave me stronger foundation of the information.
So you mentioned the 2 years. What is it that is required of you to be able to teach? So you need to know how to use the reformer and how to use any of the other apparatuses, which is what you mentioned the equipment is. What else do you need?
Anatomy.
Okay. Oh, you have to like have the anatomy class.
Yeah.
So you know the body. Okay.
You need to know anatomy, so you need to know the body. And part of that is because, you know, as someone who is educating someone else on like what their body is doing, I need to know like what muscles you know are in the body and how do the muscles work and you know what system, whether that is like the skeletal system, the muscular system, the nervous system, right? Understanding how those all work together to keep you safe. Two, it's also an opportunity for everyone in the industry to have a language that we can all speak to each other about, right? Okay. And then three, let's say, God forbid, something happened to you, broke something, right? And you are in the middle of rehabbing. So like say she's trying to get stronger, better, more movement in her legs, for an example, right? Then your doctor or your physical therapist will write out exercises that you're working on, and they'll also write out some of the parts of your body that you're rehabbing. And that's also another way that I can communicate with your doctor of what's going on in your body, so that we're all on the same page and we're all the big goal is to just get you stronger. For younger students, is there anything you would recommend they start doing now to, if they're interested in Pilates specifically, prepare themselves? Yeah. Well, one, I'm going to plug Pilates in the Park. Yes, that's it. Like if you are in Atlanta, come to Pilates in the Park. That's for everybody. Yes. We are our youngest student. He hasn't been here in a while, but he was 4. Little man. He used to come. But then we have another student who's 8. Okay, I'm sure you see all the time. We have another young lady who's 8 years old as well. And so it's for everyone. And the mission, we're also a 501c3. Okay, awesome. The mission is to make Pilates accessible to everyone. So if it's something that you're interested in exploring, just bring your mat. Yeah, I love that. And Pilates in the Park is very fun. And you can meet Khetanya. Yes! What? Like, that's amazing. One thing I thought about as you were talking about anatomy and if you have an injury, being able to learn about how the body works and how to prevent those injuries. When I was in middle school, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. And that, if any students are dealing with scoliosis, I think it was in, I want to say 8th grade. It could have been 6th grade. But that's something that wasn't recommended to me until I think after college is when I even learned about Pilates. But that's something there. And even for the parents who are trying to figure out what is something that could help my student who has scoliosis and you don't want to do invasive surgery and maybe the spine is not at a point where you need surgery. Pilates is something that really helps with the range of motion of the spine. It really helps strengthen the back muscles. So yeah, come out for free, because one thing I do want to also touch on is that Pilates is expensive. It is very expensive. And to your point of it being accessible and free in the park, we don't see that a lot of times. Pilates, unless you are recommended by your doctor to someone in-house who does a Pilates physical therapy and your insurance covers it, you're spending at a minimum probably $200 to do some sessions. And no, not a lot of people have $200 to do sessions that they're going to have to do month over month. So when we think about that, why is Pilates so expensive? What goes into that? So to break it down, like in terms of business, right? So a reformer itself is about $4,000. Okay. Cadillac is between $6,000 to $10,000. Okay. So the equipment itself is very expensive. So I would say anyone who's running a studio business, they're just trying to return their investment. Okay. Right. Also, certifications can get expensive, but there are some scholarships out there in which can help support and take down some of that cost. Okay. If you wanted to get yourself certified.
How many, you said 2 years was your Pilates certification, the comprehensive one. How many hours did you have to put in?
Most comprehensive programs are between 700 and 900 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. It could take you a year, but that's if you're doing it full time.
So many hours, but that's what makes the expert. Okay.
Yes, very much so. And, and I actually appreciate the time that it takes because we're not doctors at all. But when I tell you the type of bodies that come to me, they're like, I've had a client who had scoliosis. I have a client who has some kind of osteoporosis going on in their spine, spinal stenosis. I have prenatal, postnatal,
wow,
older, younger, hypermobile, everything. And I have to be the expert, in knowing that information. If I don't, I send them to someone else.
Right? What was one of the coolest projects or encounters you've had at your job? And you briefly mentioned Cirque du Soleil. To me, that's cool. But if you have a different one, what is a really cool experience that you had?
Living in LA is so fun.
Okay.
You meet a lot of celebrities. I've worked with a ton of celebrities.
That's cool. You want to name drop a celebrity?
Yeah, I'll drop a celebrity. So for the kids, SZA used to come to my classes all the time.
Shout out to SZA.
SZA used to come to my class all the time. Let's see, who else? Jennifer Garner.
But that is really cool. Okay, I love that. And you talked about traveling too. You mentioned going to, you said Las Vegas you were in New York, you were in Los Angeles. So it sounds like this career path that you've chosen has taken you to a lot of places to meet a lot of different people.
It has. And, really cool. Now that we have online accessibility as well, you can go on YouTube if you want to check me out on YouTube. I'm on there. Yeah. And I also do fitness modeling, which is also a lot of fun.
You do a lot. What do you think the future of Pilates or fitness instructors in the Pilates space looks like?
I would like the future to look like, I would like to see Pilates offered in colleges so people can go and get a degree in it. There's so much to learn from it. And if we have more of that credibility behind it, I think that Pilates can really change the world. So I think I would like the future to look like Pilates is more credible and more respected, and it's not like a fitness workout only, that is actually something that could be studied and understood and respected, and hopefully just more professionals out there wanting to do it and wanting to keep it going.
A bright future for Pilates. That's what we see. A bright, accessible, more accepted future for Pilates.
Yeah.
That is where I'm going to leave us with questions for now. Nice. But is there any last statements you want to make, or anything that is on your heart and you're like, let me tell the kids this real quick?
As you all are exploring what avenue you want to go in, don't let anyone tell you that you can't. Anything is possible. Sometimes you just have to use your creative brain to make a way for yourself. And that's what I did. Pilates was just something that I wanted to do and wanted to explore. I did not have the money. I didn't grow up with a lot of money in my pockets. And by just creatively thinking, well, what if I worked in exchange to take a class? Yeah. That was the start of a big career later on. So do whatever it is that your heart tells you it wants to do. Go follow your dreams.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us and for giving that advice and for helping me learn something. I always learn something when I'm sitting down with people, and hopefully you all did too, whether you're a kid or a parent or just somebody on YouTube or Instagram. But that is it for now. Thanks for tuning in to FieldSnips, and until next time.